All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is June Archer. This is the Winner Circle. Thank you so much for tuning in. My guest today is the talented Pablo Castelblanco, who plays Steve on Happy's Place, brought to you by NBC. And I gotta tell you, man, Pablo, you are killing it this season. And I'm super excited of where your arc is going. And I want to
Yeah.
talk about spiders and social media. But before we go to that, um, how did the young Pablo, born in Bogota, Colombia, fall in love with acting?
Oh, I remember I saw Lord of the Rings and I loved it as a kid. I was obsessed with Lord of the Rings and I was like, I want to live there. And the closest thing, I think my brain was already trying to figure it out. I was like, what's the closest thing to living there? It's like making the movie. My parents also gifted me a book. I was too young to like read the actual book, so they gave me like a book of how the movies were made. It was for the Two Towers, I remember. And he had pictures of production, right? So maybe that's why I was like a kid. So it was easier if it had pictures for me to like read it. But that's kind of how I was like, oh, you just are like, you make the movie. That's how you like live in the world. And out of all the jobs, the one that interested me the most was being the character. So that's kind of maybe how I realized I wanted to be an actor. And then I started asking them to take me to classes, and I always was taking acting classes or being in the school plays or doing all the thing. So it wasn't a surprise for them once I was like, well, I want to move to American, study there, acting to professionally do it because I had been doing it like it was my only hobby. Some kids have like sports. I always did theater, always did acting.
And what was your formal training?
I went to college here at the American Musical and Dramatic Academy. I started in New York and I finished in LA.
And for young people who are looking to do what you're doing, what is the best piece of advice you could give them?
Oh, I think it's just that it depends, how young. It's just like doing it, like if you're in high school and stuff like that, it's like you just have to do it and try to do it as much as you can, of course, school plays, but if you see any kind of like productions happening around, that's great. And then now if you've like gone to school or you're like an adult, young adult, like looking to get into it, it's just, patience and just kind of a little bit of sacrifice of, I did a lot of short films, student short films, and I did theater with my friends, and it was all very interesting, odd experimental theater, but all those experiences got me to where I am right now. So it's just kind of like doing it.
So you put that in a pot, you stir all of that, you get the foundation,
Yeah.
but the magic is how did you get your comedic timing? Because what you bring to us with Steve is magic. It is fun. We fall in love with you. We love to see you walk in a room. How did you get that comedic timing?
Oh, I think it's just I think committing timing is something you can learn it. I did improv for a long time, but I feel like there's a lot of my essence there. So a lot of the way that I approach comedy is just out of like what I think it's fun in the world. I'm always trying to think, when I go on a date with someone, I'm always like, where's the sense of humor? Where's the funny? Where can I make this person laugh? Or how can they make me laugh? That's the one thing I'm kind of looking for first. Or when I'm meeting new friends, I'm always like, where does this kind of delivery works with you? So I feel like my sense of timing has just been on how I'm interested in approaching people because I'm always interested in seeing what like makes them laugh.
Absolutely. So we embark on this journey where Steve gets involved haphazardly with a spider. And there's a story behind this. And I want to ask you, things go wrong for Steve because it's a mind thing, only
Yeah.
until he is told, if I had told you good things would happen, you would have only believed good things would happen. What do you believe is the power of the mind as it can play tricks on us in life
Yes.
that we end up blocking our own blessings?
100%. I mean, that happens to me too all the time. Like if you walk in a place being like, I'm gonna have a bad time, your mind's already looking for signals of why that's gonna become true. Oh, you're gonna have a bad time because your brain's looking to confirm that bias. Um, And I think you also have the power of doing the opposite things. Like it's gonna be the best thing. And if you trick your brain into thinking it's gonna be the best thing. It was one of my favorite episodes, the one you're talking about. to film because it's so silly and it just manifests when he gets that confidence. He just becomes kind of like a douche, and I loved it. I loved playing that. Um, but I think it does speak to the power our mind has, and I think Steve's someone that lives in his brain a lot because of his OCD. So I am so grateful he learned that lesson because he needs like he lives in his brain more than maybe most people do. And so he needs to just be able to recognize when he's allowing himself to go down a spiral. So it was a good lesson for him to learn. It's a good lesson for Pablo to remember that my mind has more power than I give it credit, and for everybody.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, what do you do, Pablo, when you get into that mode of man, because like you said, you say it and then the universe responds, whether it be
Yeah.
positive, negatively. But what is it that you do to kind of course correct? Do you pray? Do you meditate? Do you take long walks? Do you What is it that you do to course correct that mentality?
I do go on long walks. I love walking a lot, so that's something that helps me. I try to meditate as well. Uh, I think it's just also talking to myself and therapy. I mean, one of the first entries I had to Steve with his OCD is that I like that he was going to therapy because it didn't feel like he was just like, oh, a person with OCD does nothing, you know? He like knew he had to work on it. And I've gone to therapy for years now, and it's out of just trying to break those patterns. I think just like being aware that you have patterns of your brain going somewhere and then deciding to be like, no, let me break the pattern. Let me have this conversation. Let me have friends that I can talk to. And most of the times that helps and that's successful. And you'll fail sometimes, and that's also okay. Uh, but if I'm walking into like a room or an audition or something like that, and I'm already setting myself up for failure by being like, oh, it's gonna go bad. Oh, I'm not gonna have a good time. The work is to be able to like hear it and just be able to be like, oh, I'm doing that thing that I do. Let me try to change it. So, but it takes practice, and that's what I try to do.
And I love that. I think the most important piece that you just mentioned is having the people around you. And one of the things that we get from this series is such an amazing cast. When you talk about Bobby and Emmett and like, right, so there is this family piece, right? There's this connection. There's this village that allows Steve to be able to be his authentic self, even with all the quirks and everything that comes with him. How important is it to have that village around you?
Oh, it's so important. I feel like, today we talk a lot about the loneliness epidemic, and um, you know, we also see people getting into all sorts of uh, ways that are maybe not the best path to live their lives. I mean, I myself have gotten moments where I feel like I'm alone and lonely, um, and then that maybe leads to not the best mindset or behaviors, and then it's always going back to like you have friends and you have opportunities to meet people, and I feel like community is so important, and we've just kind of lost that a little bit. So I think Steve is doing well because he has that community at his job. I try to learn from him to be like, get out of your comfort zone, like reach out to those people that uh, support you. So I think it's so important to just have community and to build those relationships, and those communities exist in many spaces, hobbies and stuff like that. So it's a good way to follow your passions.
I love how you put it so eloquently. And, you know, we jump into trying to teach old dogs new tricks.
Hmm.
We try to do the social media content for Bobby
Yeah.
and just not getting it. How fun was that episode? And what does that mean for bridging the gap in terms of generations and having these conversations?
Oh, it's so funny. It's also like my favorite thing is when Reba gets to be like the silliest on the episode, and she was doing some stuff that I couldn't keep. Like I couldn't. I just was laughing. I was like, she was so funny that week. I mean, she's funny all the time, but God, that week was so like silly. Um, yeah, one of my favorite things is like the generational differences in our cast. Uh, I really like that because we're not seeing the world through like a group of 25-year-olds, or we're not seeing the world from like the lookout of, I don't know, like 40-year-olds. Everyone has a different viewpoint. And I like when we get to just play on those things and just know that someone's reference and context is going to be completely different for someone else. And I like when jokes acknowledge that and when stories acknowledge that.
Absolutely. I know it has to be a blast working with Reba McEntire, who is, man, she's a veteran in so many aspects of her career. What has been the one thing that you've learned, or maybe she shared with you, that you will take with you along your journey as an actor, but also just as a human being?
I mean, she hasn't said it because I don't think she needs to, but just the way she leads is such an example, you know. She says hello to everybody. She makes sure everyone's kind of in a good mood, asks for advice, gives advice, hears you out, shares. I think just when you are warm and you are kind and you open up to everybody, everybody does the same thing in response and everyone's better for it. So that's the lesson I'll take. Like to be a good leader, it's the biggest lesson I'll take from her.
Pablo, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That's Pablo Castelblanco playing Steve, Happy's Place, NBC, with Reba McEntire. And Pablo, all I got to say to you is stay out of Emmett's kitchen. Ladies and gentlemen,
Ah,
this is June Archer. This is the Winner Circle. Thank you so much for tuning in.
thank
Peace.
you,